When most people picture the Battle of Gettysburg, certain names rise instantly to memory. Pickett, Hancock, Longstreet, figures immortalized in the annals of history. Yet beneath that familiar tale lies another story, long buried and largely forgotten, one that could upend our understanding of that decisive clash. In 1875, 10 years after the guns had gone silent, a Confederate general penned a letter revealing an unsettling and deeply personal side of Gettysburg, one filled with doubt, remorse, and haunting reflection. This is no ordinary battlefield chronicle. It's an unguarded look at the confusion, the clashes in command, and the costly decisions that shaped one of the Civil War's most defining confrontations. Join me as we delve into General John Bell Hood's revealing correspondence with General James Longstreet, a document that exposes a side of Gettysburg history few have ever seen. From hidden maneuvers and conflicting orders to a doomed charge that claimed countless lives, this is the untold account the textbooks forgot. Stay with me until the end. You'll want to catch every part of this gripping, long-suppressed story of America's bloodiest encounter. But before we begin, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel to help grow our community. When the Battle of Gettysburg is mentioned, several names immediately echo through time: Pickett, Hancock, Meade, McLaws, Longstreet. But today, our focus turns to General John Bell Hood. His fierce attack on Little Round Top stands as one of the most significant moments of that entire campaign. To truly understand it, we must turn to his own first-hand account of what unfolded on July 2, 1863. In 1875, years after the war had ended, General James Longstreet, who by then had fallen out of favor with many of his former comrades due to his later political leanings, reached out to Hood. Longstreet sought Hood's version of events from the Gettysburg campaign. What followed was a letter in which Hood vividly recalled his role in the fighting. "I arrived with my staff," he wrote, "at the heights overlooking Gettysburg just after sunrise on July 2nd. As he described, his division soon began moving into an open field nearby. There, his men stacked their rifles and rested while awaiting orders." Earlier that morning, Hood had been alongside Generals Lee and A.P. Hill, carefully observing how the Union Army had arrayed its forces. General Lee, immaculate in full uniform with his coat buttoned high and sword belt tight at his waist, paced under the shade of great trees, field glasses in hand, occasionally stopping to study the enemy lines. Lee seemed hopeful, though at moments lost in deep thought about the immense task ahead. Nearby, Colonel Fremantle of England had climbed into the fork of a tree, using his binoculars to scan the Federal positions. It was plain that Lee was eager to strike that morning. He told Hood, "The enemy is here. If we do not defeat him, he will defeat us." Still, Hood believed it wiser to wait until Pickett's division, which was still behind, could arrive before launching an assault. Later, as Hood and Longstreet sat beneath a sturdy tree, Longstreet remarked, "The general seems anxious today. He wants me to attack, but I'd rather not without Pickett. I never like to go into battle with one boot off." And so the morning dragged by, heavy with anticipation, until the decision finally came in the afternoon. Around 3 o'clock, they resolved to act. Waiting any longer for Pickett was no longer possible. The plan shifted. They would move to the far right and advance along the Emmitsburg Road. McLaws led the way, and Hood followed closely behind. Soon, Hood was ordered to quicken his pace and overtake McLaws. To clear the path, Hood sent forward an advance detail to tear down fences and remove obstacles. His instructions were unmistakable: form his division across the Emmitsburg Road, establish a strong line, and prepare to attack. But before he reached the road, Hood dispatched his trusted Texas scouts to locate the enemy's far left flank. They soon returned with vital intelligence. The Federal flank rested on Round Top Mountain. They reported that the area around Round Top was open enough to maneuver through wooded pastures, offering a chance to strike the Union forces from the side and rear. They also noted that the enemy's wagon trains were crowded close behind their line, making them an inviting target. Upon reaching the Emmetsburg road, Hood acted swiftly. He positioned 1 or 2 artillery batteries and opened fire, fully ready to engage. The Union guns answered almost at once, revealing their positions. Their left was anchored near Round Top, their lines bending and curving into a concave formation that stretched along the Emmetsburg road. A forward line of troops stood between the road and Round Top, holding a rise near a peach orchard, prepared to meet any attack. Hood realized that to follow orders and advance up the Emmetsburg road, he would first need to drive back that forward line. At the base and along the slopes of the mountain, massive boulders littered the ground, creating tight passages that could easily break up formations and scatter his men. The main Union line, positioned along the crest with Round Top on its flank, would rain deadly crossfire from multiple directions. It was nearly impossible, he thought, to climb such rugged terrain under that kind of fire and still prevail. Victory, if it came, would demand a terrible price: the lives of his bravest soldiers. The reconnaissance by his scouts, combined with his own observations, was completed swiftly. Faster, Hood remarked, than it took to recount in his letter. Acting on what he saw, he immediately sent word to Longstreet, warning that attacking along the Emmetsburg road was unwise. He urged permission to move around Round Top and strike from the flank instead. He dispatched an officer with his message, explaining his reasoning. The answer came quickly. General Lee's orders were to advance directly up the Emmetsburg road. Still unconvinced, Hood sent another officer to restate his concerns, but the reply remained the same. Meanwhile, his artillery kept up the barrage, confirming his suspicion that the Union line stretched all the way to Round Top. It seemed hopeless to expect success. The Federal position appeared almost impregnable, a natural fortress. Hood even remarked that they could have repelled the attack simply by rolling rocks down the hillside in addition to firing from their positions. Determined to make one last attempt, he sent a third messenger, his adjutant general, Colonel Harry Sellers, to personally explain the situation and beg Longstreet to come see it himself. Sellers returned with the same directive: attack up the Emmetsburg road. Moments later, Colonel Fairfax from Longstreet's staff arrived to repeat the order once again. Having made his protest, the only formal objection he ever issued in his military career, Hood obeyed. He gave the command for his line to advance. As his men surged forward, Longstreet rode up. The two exchanged brief words. Hood once more voiced his regret that he had not been allowed to flank Round Top. Longstreet stood firm. Lee's orders must be followed. The division moved ahead under heavy fire. About 20 minutes after reaching the peach orchard, a shell struck Hood, shattering his arm and taking him from the field. Carried away on a stretcher, he felt an overwhelming sorrow for his men, soldiers from one of the finest divisions in Lee's army, and for what might have been. He remained convinced that if he had been allowed to move around Round Top, his troops could have seized that ground and possibly driven the Union army from the field. He closed his letter, "I remain respectfully yours, J.B. Hood." General John Bell Hood remains one of the most intriguing figures in Civil War history. His career and character continue to fascinate historians and enthusiasts alike. His charge at Gettysburg, particularly at Devil's Den and Little Round Top, has gone down as one of the fiercest and bloodiest moments of the war. The fighting in those areas ranks among the most savage of the entire conflict, remembered for its intensity and staggering losses. What makes this story especially compelling is that it comes through Hood's own words. Yet it's crucial to remember that he wrote this account nearly a decade after the war. This long gap raises questions. Can his recollections be trusted completely? Could time have clouded the details? Memory, after all, is fallible, and Hood did not record his reflections immediately after the battle. That uncertainty makes his testimony both fascinating and fragile. Still, his letter to Longstreet stands as a vivid window into the thoughts of a Confederate general reflecting on one of history's most consequential struggles. Beyond recounting tactics, Hood's words reveal the inner turmoil of command, the weight of responsibility, the chaos of combat, and the anguish of hindsight. His writing paints a striking portrait of a soldier haunted by the cost of obedience. Sadly, only 4 years after composing this letter, Hood died in New Orleans. His life and his controversial role in the Civil War remain subjects of enduring interest. But his 1875 letter does more than retell a battle. It questions the very decisions that altered history. Could Gettysburg's outcome have been different? Did rigid adherence to orders seal the fate of thousands? And how much of what we believe today is shaped by memory, politics, or the silenced accounts of those who were there? As we reflect on Hood's haunting words, one truth stands out. History is never simple. The echoes of forgotten voices and the stories left untold still carry weight, urging us to listen.